All right, welcome back to My Life, Sam Radford. On this episode, we have one of my favorite human individuals on the podcast. His name is Caustic, aka Daniel Stefani. He's a battle rapper, comedian, all around just a funny ass dude. You know what I mean? And I've been a fan of Daniel for a long time. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. Can they see me?
They can see you when I
Hell
upload it
yeah.
eventually on
All
video. Yeah,
right.
right now we're just doing audio, but I'm trying to make it big, you know?
Don't pick
Um,
my nose or anything. Just bullshit.
don't worry, I will.
All
I'll
right.
do it. But yeah, man. So like, we're going to speak about a lot of stuff, but my first little entry level question is always, what's your introduction to hip hop, man? What was like that moment for you that like made you fall in love?
I think for me, it's a weird story how I got into it. I was on like a road trip with my mom somewhere, and we stopped at like this random like rest stop on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, and I found a paper bag in the bathroom with a bunch of cassette tapes in it. And so on the trip, my mom got me a Walkman to listen to my new cassettes, and I got it was a Selena single, Bitty Bitty Bomb Bomb, and Up in My Room or something like that. The Tony Rich Project, Nobody Knows, and I also got Operation Stackola by the Loonies, which is like a pretty classic Oakland group. And I listened to like Operation Stackola like every day for like 6 months, and then like my older cousins and stuff like that like saw that I was like interested, and they started like showing me different stuff, and it just kind of took off from there. So ever since I was like probably 10 years old, I think
That,
I went to like CD Warehouse and bought like a Skilo CD. If you remember Skilo, I wish I
so
was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. That was the first CD I bought with my own money.
that's so funny, man. That's such a that's it, but that's such a because as a fan of you, like you're different than a lot of people, and I find like everybody you can kind of understand to why they are how they are with like flow and rhyme style on what they grew up on initially. And so for you to mention the Loonies and then Skilo and stuff, it's a cool different answer than a lot of people, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like because it's like Yuck Mouth is such a odd introductory like rap flow to try to process as a kid, and even just trying to understand like what he was talking about, like really put like a lot of perspective on like where I'm from and stuff like that. And then I started getting really into like East Coast music, which got me made fun of a lot in my neighborhood.
Yeah. No, that's what's so funny is like the one I see kind of like the downfall of hip hop these days is what used to be so amazing with how like every part of the country had their own style. Whereas there is still a bit of that, but like it's all kind of
Yeah,
cleansed into
it's
one thing.
definitely bleeding into each other a
I
lot.
say everybody's trying to emulate Atlanta in somewhat these days, you know?
Everybody just sounds like this weird computer like generated mouse person.
Oh yeah. Well, if you want to get a little fun fact, after the movie Us came out, it was very famous for having "I Got Five" on it by Loonies, and like that was like the soundtrack for the movie. And
Yeah.
I was running a kitchen at the time, and I was listening to the song, and this girl came in, server, and she was like, "Oh, is that the song from the movie Us?" I was like, "No, that is the song from the group The Loonies." Okay, with one of the most suspect lines starting a verse saying, "I take
Yeah.
sacks to the face."
I take sex to the face. I
It's
was
one of
like,
my
oh, I was like, is that a good thing? Is that, bro? I remember like in like early like West Coast gangster rap, because I like a lot of the stuff I was like introduced to was like Sibo and like Selly Cell and like Brother Lynch Hung, and a lot of like old school like gangster rappers used to call pussy cog, COG, and that was so confusing to me. I was like, are we into cocks? I was like, I'm down if that's like, I guess, you know what I mean?
It was the same thing when all these rappers started calling themselves a pseudonym, like you know how you have Young and the Baby, and then Twerk started showing up in like New Jersey, and you're
Yeah.
just like, and you found it as like a way of like actually hustling. But I'm like, twerking to me is a completely different thing, you know?
Yeah. When I first heard that name, I was like, I'm not in. I don't know what this guy's about, but I don't want to find out. And he turned out to be like one of the best ever. It's so funny.
It's just a say of the times, you know.
It was
So
around the time when Tink the Demon came out, and I was like, I don't think anybody knows what they're saying.
Tink the Demon. It sounds like a car in like that Metal Militia game from the '90s or something.
It just sounds like the gayest porno title. You know what I
That
mean?
No, 100%, man.
Not
And
that there's anything wrong with that. That's
no,
fine if that's what you're into, but I don't think he knows that.
he's one letter away from it being Kink the Demon.
Yeah, or Twink the Demon, which I'm pretty sure is what I thought that meant when I first heard it.
But tell me that Twink the Demon wouldn't be the hardest fucking rapper out
Twink the
there.
Demon is going to go undefeated, bro. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can say to that, man.
So speaking about that, man, so I know you from battling starting around 2009, right? But I
Yeah.
do know, like, I'm not a completely like factual and research guy, but I know from you were in a group before you battled and you actually toured with that group. Am I right?
Yeah, that
And
was
so,
I was in a group called the Cusp, CUSP. It was
and,
3 of us. Yeah.
and how long did that group go along for? And what was your guys' kind of deal and stuff like that?
Basically, I mean, that lasted. So I got out of jail when I was 19, and pretty much that started within 3 or 4 months of me getting out. So from like 19 to like 22, probably, I was doing that. And that was like around the time of like SoulSeek and like LimeWire and stuff like that. So that was really, and we found like a lane through SoulSeek because I was so into like collecting music and stuff like that. So I talked to so many people. It was all about like sharing your collections of music and trying to find stuff that people didn't know about and stuff like that. And so people kind of figured out that I was one of these albums, you know what I mean? And so we started getting circulated on like the download age, you know what I mean? And
Okay.
so, and then we just started making friends and we booked shows and bars and, you know, Santa Fe, New Mexico or whatever, and do our thing, you know?
All right. Well, then, and what was your transition from doing that to upon battle rap? Like, were you battling when you were in that group or when you were coming up as just a fan of rap? Because I find a lot of people do.
I attempted battling before that. The first time I went to Tourette's Without Regrets when I was like 19 years old. I was fresh out of jail and everybody in jail thought I was really good. So I thought I was really good. And I went to Tourette's, which is not that type of environment at all. It's very like, it was always like super progressive crowd. You know what I mean? Like not really dealing with any like homophobic stuff like that. So I started doing my thing and nobody in the crowd was feeling me at all. And like somebody threw like a teddy bear at me while I was rapping and I literally like lost my shit on them. I like threw it back into the eye, like threw a fucking tantrum, like entirely. And I was like, battling's fucking stupid. It was like, if you battle, you're a fucking idiot. I just had no concept with it. And I went back to Tourette's like a year later and I won, which was interesting. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not shitty. And I just had a bad night. And I think it wasn't too long after that where I had just like stumbled upon Battle of the Bay 2. I was just like walking around Oakland. I used to go to Mosswood Park all the time. There was like a big crowd at Mosswood, and I was like, what the hell is going on over here? And I like walked up just in time to see like Dumbfounded and Satire versus Waps and Juice. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, this is everything I want out of this shit. And then somebody in the crowd is like, oh, I remember you used to do those Cusp albums. And I was like, yeah. They're like, you should try this. You always had like punchlines and stuff. And I met Lush that day and they signed me up.
There you go,
So
man.
the story goes. Yeah.
And then, so what was your first battle in Grind Time?
My first battle was a tryout against D. Wiggins.
Ah, San Francisco legend.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe, yeah, he became a San Francisco legend somehow, some way. I haven't talked to him in a while. I see him post on Twitter every now and then, but I would love to just pull up on that dude with like an Andrew Wiggins jersey and just like.
I used to argue with him. I used to argue with him on Facebook about Raptors versus Warriors back in 2019. We had a big.
Oh yeah, what a fucking nightmare that series was, dude.
Oh man, for me it's I'm a Raptor fan, so you can't really.
Yeah. That was so like, man, that series was crazy because we were watching it at halftime, which is a very legendary spot in Oakland. And some dude was like so excited during the game that he like jumped up and down after Steph made a shot and his gun went off in his pants and he shot himself in the leg. But we didn't know that. We were fucking running and like hitting corners and shit like that. We're like, I thought somebody just started shooting up halftime.
Bro, I think that just goes to show that your guys' season was kind of cursed.
Yeah, no, it was crazy, bro. The whole Klay Thompson, like I just had the same injury that Klay Thompson had like right before that. So as soon as he landed, I was like, that's his ACL. He's done for at least a year.
Well,
And I was right.
I don't know, man. The thing is, I agree that I think with every kind of playoff or finals, like there's always going to be an asterisk, right? Like whether it be like Kevin Love and Cavaliers being injured, or Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant, and basically the whole entire Oakland roster being injured against the Raptors. But
Yeah.
I still
Or
take the
only
W.
winning a title because you had Kawhi Leonard for 1 year.
Well, you know what? You know what, man? It's all good. Masai Ujiri beat up one of your guys' cops. All right, so
hey, fuck those cops.
Yeah.
I don't like those fools either.
All right, but no, that's why I love having you on, because I know that you're such a fan of everything, and I just kind of want to speak about everything. But so your battle was in Grind Time Silver, which was the introduction with D Wiggins.
That was before Silver.
That
Silver
was before
didn't even
Silver?
exist yet. Like
Okay.
we had such a crazy tryout class. Like
Yes, it was one of the biggest.
Yeah, the day of my tryouts, like everybody, like I had been watching like battle rap like pretty much every day, like in preparation for that, and like trying to learn how they do it, because it was such a different format than anything I've ever done. Because like the Bay Area was so about freestyling, like you had to be like actually freestyling, not like New York freestyling where it's just a verse that you wrote. It's just you have to like make the shit up or you're not legitimate at all. And I was like, so I can write for this. And Les was like, yeah, kind of like, and I was like, okay, I think I know what's going on here.
Whenever I speak to anybody about that era, I'm like, because as a fan, I think it was known that it was pre-written. But every time I speak to an OG like you or somebody, like, well, no, there was a thin line. Whereas like we kind of knew it, but then like we didn't really say it in stone for a while. It was
an unspoken thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like, but that day it was like, that was the day like Chase Moore tried out, and Peanut tried out, and Fox tried out, and like Vocab tried out, and like all these people, and like, you know, like even in my tryout battle, like Conceited standing directly next to me, and like Madness is there, like you can see, and Disaster was there. Disaster interrupted my battle to say how good I was doing.
Such a disaster thing.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it's not even like the third round yet. He's like giving his opinions on bars. So, and that was really surreal for me, and that was like a lot of people gave me a lot of props that day, and that really kind of set me apart and set me up for success in the future, I think.
Well, actually, we'll say pun intended for this segue. You speak about the guy shooting himself by accident at the bar during the finals. I don't want to jump to conclusion, but one of your biggest battles that was almost maybe your next or your second battle after that was versus Cadillac Ron, rest in peace. And I remember you speaking about Cadillac having a gun in the battle, and you just kind of being like, oh, I'm battling the guy who has a gun on him.
Yeah. And I was like, what is happening right now? I was like, do I get shot if I win? Because I'm definitely going to win. I was like, I've never written anything this good. And I had heard so much stuff about Cadillac Ron up until that point. And then I met him after the battle, you know, every time you battle somebody, like you just develop this bond with that person forever, whether it be positive or negative or whatever. But me and Ron like hung out after the battle. We were the first battle of like such a legendary event, and we really like set the tone for that whole weekend. And like we were just like inseparable after that. Like I was going to like LA every weekend just to hang out with Ron after that.
Yeah, that's the one. I always like in high school it was the same thing. Like guy fights, like rather whether it be a rap battle or a fight. I remember like these two dudes fought each other who hated each other. Once they ended the fight, the cops came and they walked away as if they were just friends, not fighting.
They loved each other.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with a couple people I grew up with, where like we kicked the shit out of each other, and then I still talk to them to this day.
You're like, oh man, you got me. Dude, one of my best friends ever. I stole his iPhone in grade 9 during the in school. You always, I don't know about America, probably you do like the national anthem in the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
And I stole his phone out of his back pocket, and I pretended to look with him the rest of the class.
Oh man,
he ended up being my first college roommate. We're great friends to this day. You know what I mean? But
the weird funny. Bonds you have with like doing negative shit to people.
It's funny, you know. But speaking of that, like, so Caustic is known in battle rap as like the career assassinator. Like he'll battle a dude, give him a look, this dude who's like maybe on the up and up or something like that, and then he'll just like, he has ended people's careers. So speaking of Disaster, I was watching Disaster had an interview on No Jumper, and he actually was speaking about you versus this fellow named Jefferson Price from United Kingdom and Don't Flop. And at the time he was cheating on his wife, who was pregnant, with a stripper who was in the same crowd as his wife the same day in the venue. And he had found out you had heard about this. And he said, please don't say the person's name. And you're like, okay, I won't say the person's name. And then you actually revealed said issue, and your friend was the one who said the name as the punchline.
Yeah, so that was actually Uno Lavos who said
you kept your honor.
Yeah, I did exactly what I said I would do. I remember it, man. That was such a crazy weekend, the way that all unfolded from front to back. Like the second I got to London that weekend, I just remember I was so fucking jet lagged that just as soon as I got there, I just felt like drained. And we're like, you have to take a bunch of trains and like switch over on the tube and like do all this stuff to actually get into London from Heathrow. And like it was like me and like Arsenal were like just riding the tube together. And he's like, oh, we gotta get off here. And I was like, cool. And we got off and the train door shut. And I was like, all my luggage was on that train and I forgot to grab it, including my passport. So now I'm in London with no passport, no money, no clothes, no anything. And I have a battle that I'm still kind of writing, which is also on my laptop, which is somewhere on the London tube system. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to start this whole thing over. And we finally get to like where we're going. And I think like, it was like Kruger and like Mickey Worthless picked us up from whatever destination we made it to. And like, I don't know if you know anything about Mickey Worthless, but this dude can't shut the fuck up for nothing, dude. Like he just can't. And so immediately he just starts like alluding to shit about Jefferson Price. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. I was like, oh, tell me more about that. And Kruger's definitely like on the low, like, why don't you shut the fuck up, man? He's like, that's not cool at all. And so eventually, like, after like 30 minutes, I get the whole story out of him. And I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to do this. I was like, fuck all this. I was like, this is way better than whatever I was going to do initially. I was like, this is fucking hilarious. Because I just live for those, like, it's not irony. It's just, I don't know if it's like poetic justice or anything. I love shit like that. So I like started to come up with ideas, and we were on the second day of the event. I think I was supposed to be the first day, but because of what happened with all my shit, they moved me to the second day to give me like a little bit more time to get my shit together. And on the first day, Jefferson Price sees me, and Mickey Worthless had also told him about what he told me. So I'm like, of course, bro. I'm like, and he's like, and here's the main reason why I made the decision I made is he just took like the most bitch ass route about it. And it's just like, whatever you want, I'll do it. Just don't say that shit. And I was like, he's like, you want money? I'll buy you drinks. He's like, you want to meet girls? I'm like, no. I'm like, isn't that how you got in this situation? I'm like, stop. But I heard him out. You know what I mean? I kicked it with him. Like, you know, I heard his plea. And I was like, kind of like maybe changing. I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. You know what I mean? I was like, this is really like fucking with somebody's life. And then I drank a little bit more than I should have that day, probably. And I went back to the hotel with Madness. And I'm like, we're standing in the room. And he's like, and I told him the whole situation. And he's like, just so you know, if it were a reverse situation, he would fucking burn you in a heartbeat. He would not have any remorse for you. You know what I mean? He would definitely fuck your life up for this moment. And I was like, he would, wouldn't he? He's like, yeah. And I was like, fuck this dude. He's like, yeah, fuck this dude. And I started getting all like hyped up, and I wrote that verse in about 30 minutes.
And it's if you guys watch like Caustic versus Jefferson Price, this person once Caustic like goes in about this subject, you see the facial expressions of a man just break down in every single facial expression you can. At first, you can tell he's trying to pretend that it's not a thing, but you can see in his eyes that
Yeah,
he is
like
like regretting after the battle.
the internal meltdown is so real in his face. And it's just like I hope you don't play poker or anything like that, because you would suck at that shit. There was just no poise, no, like, you know what I mean? Like paper hands. I don't know how else to say it. Like
Yeah.
that was just, yeah.
I'm surprised in the middle of it, he didn't just come and whisper to you on stage, like, I told you I'd buy you drinks and get you girls.
Yeah. I was like, dude, I can do all that shit on my own.
That's why I was flown out here.
It's like, yeah, I was like, everybody's really excited that I'm here. I don't know if you know that.
Is that the girl that we're speaking about? Hey, women empowerment, do what you want. You're your own person. Love yourself. Is that the same girl who was infamous in the Don't Flop for baking cakes for people, or is that a lie?
I don't know.
No?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I pride myself on my Don't Flop lore, but I don't know the answer to that. Honestly.
Okay, we're gonna bring it back to something that is more close to home for me. So I'm from all over Canada growing up, but when I was a teenager, when I was a big fan of like when battle rap was at its like peak between like 2009 and like 2015, I was living in Muskoka, Ontario, which is 2 hours north of Toronto, and I was battling in this little tiny league in North Bay, Ontario, not to be confused for the Bay in California. And there was a guy who was like the big guy from the Bay. His name was Q Shinobi. And because he had like a little bit of relevance in King of the Dot, like we were all riding for him, right? We were all big fans of him. And then again,
I think I've heard of that guy. Yeah.
Caustic actually battled this guy I'm pretty sure he battled him for some money, actually, rather than just taking a battle. This guy like put money out of his pocket to help Caustic.
Oh yeah, that was like when they approached it for me. He was like very confident, and he didn't want anybody else. He wanted me. And like I remember Organic talking to me about it, and they're like, yeah, he's willing to like pay for your flight and give you like money out of pocket if you take this battle. And I was like, really? I was like, he wants to pay me to do this? And I was like, yeah. And I don't think I'd ever gotten paid that much before that, or even if I think I made a little bit money before that, but that was the first time I ever exceeded like 3 figures.
Well, this was 2011, right? Yeah. So this was early on before battle rappers were getting paid.
Yeah, and that was so $1,000 was a big deal at the time. You know what I mean? And everybody knew that he paid me the money because he told everybody about it. And that was like my first King of the Dot battle, and it was like there was like hype around it. And I was like nervous, bro. I was like, I thought he had been ready for me for months, and I wrote that shit in PvP's apartment when I got there. You know what I mean? Like, and it just turned out to be like it just worked. Everything I did worked.
Oh man. Well, when you have hip hop tattooed to your front section like that on your arms, and I think you can't. So I used to call myself when I rapped, I used to call myself Mr. Ill. And I remember I wanted to get a tattoo, and it was going to be a microphone with like the I being the microphone, and then the loop of the chord being
like
LL. And I didn't get the tattoo, and the next guy I battled had a fucking microphone on his arm, and then I was like, I can't.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I dodged such a bullet, right?
Thank God, you know. But so once again, Caustic ruined this guy's career. I think also you kind of set yourself up for failure paying somebody to battle. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's almost like paying for like being like on Sweet 16 and MTV and paying for somebody to perform at your birthday party.
Yeah, or like paying for a feature or any of that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, like, if I have to pay you for a feature, I don't want to work with you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like, that's just, I know that's not how like many people in the world feel, but I don't want to collaborate with people who aren't invested in me the way I'm invested in them. You know
100%. Well, and he was clearly just using it as clout. So I'm going to like,
and also once you pay for something like that, you pay every time. There's no going back. Once you put that money on the table, you're the guy who pays for shit.
It's almost like in Canada, at least in the rap scenes in little towns and cities in Canada, a lot of people will pay for a well-known artist that was famous like 10 years ago in Canada. I'm going to say the name Mad Child from Soul and Members. It's synonymous in Canada for like people paying him $250 for a song. And he has hundreds and hundreds of people who he has not collaborated with, but he's made hella money off of.
Yeah.
But if at the end of the day, you're the stupid person, if there's hundreds of people that have happened before you that have had the same thing happen, you know?
I think I've heard similar stories with like Classified and people like that.
Oh yeah, don't get me started. Anyway, so once again, Caustic ruined this guy's career, and he actually
Do you have like a backstory of what happened to him after this? Because
no
I
okay.
don't.
So he was, in my eyes, in the small places we grew up outside of Toronto, he was big, and he had this little music group. But the thing is, when you're like young, becoming a fan of rap, you're just a fan of the person. But coming back, like this Q guy was just he had no substance. It was like 16 bars of filler in every verse he ever spit.
Yeah.
And he put himself on his own pedestal, paying and saying that he was going to kill Caustic, because Caustic at the time had gone to New York, had gone to Orlando, Broward County, and just killed people. Like I think his record at the time might have been like 8-0 or something like that, around something like that. And so for this person to be so cocky, it's like Matt Carroll on Charlotte Bobcats trying to go against like fucking Corey Maggette on Golden State in 2009 or something, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Damn, Corey Maggette.
one of my favorites, bro. But so Caustic, like, and what I think when I'm gathering from you saying, like, if you're paying for that, you're paying for that. So one note upon that before I speak about Caustic being on one of my favorite podcasts in the world is his good friends, Frank Stacks and L Money, would have their fans pay for a feature on the verse, and they would diss them on that feature. And that is one of the funniest
they all
series.
Loved it. I could not believe what was happening. I think L Money had a verse about how he was in a relationship with the other rapper on the song, and then he would get them to do like Zoom calls like this. I don't remember what it was, like Skype or something back then, but he would like film their reactions, and the guy's like, no. He's like, what do you mean, you don't like that, bro? He's like, are you saying I'm bad? He's like I put my heart and soul into that verse, bro. He's like, we're fucking in love whether you like it or not. Lamar is also like a giant person that you would never argue with.
He literally was like hyping the guy. The guy would rap and he was ad-libbing saying, I love you, we're gay. Like stuff like that.
It's like dicks. And
yeah.
Bro, I think that was Swelly. I think he did that to Swelly.
And Swelly was a big battle rap fan that, like, if you're a battle rap fan, you see other battle rap fans. And I remember just feeling so bad for the guy. And so I'm going to segue that into, so Caustic was part of the Dirtbag Dan Show, like a pioneer podcast in battle rap. There's a million battle rap podcasts now. And they also started a lot of trends. So like I spoke to Dan, who was part of the show, and I've spoken to other members. And I speak about, like, there used to be a video question part. And I would always want to send a video question in because I think I'm a well thought out, smart fan that would be respected. But I knew it wasn't going to be taken like that because you guys just treated your fans like shit, other than like the Irish roster or something.
Thank you. Yeah. That is our legacy.
But what I love, but that's what I love about it. Like, I remember one time this high pitched kid was trying to be like really like serial, like bad, like kind of like necro kind of vibe in his car.
Yeah.
And your co-host just kind of spoke about sexually assaulting said person. Or you guys had a guy who used to be a silent guy, quiet.
Oh yeah, Dirtbag Dan said he was gonna blow rape him.
Well, I was trying to teeter around the subject.
Why? It happened. You can look that up on YouTube right now.
And rest in peace to PH. It's one of the funniest reactions I've ever seen.
On the show at that time, and it was just definitely like, nope. He's like, we're gonna end it right there. And he's like, no, we're not. He's like, we're only halfway through the show. Man.
Dude, your show to me was like the battle rap Howard Stern, because you guys had like, you became like a cast and you had your ongoing characters. And then like, even though like Dan controlled the show, and when he didn't like what Frack was doing, he kicked him off. But like, what was your experience with the show? Like to me, it must've been such a cool thing for you, because like you guys were so primary in what you were doing. Like podcasts were just becoming big and you guys had such a niche thing because you guys were battle rappers yourselves.
It was amazing because we were all a part of something that nobody else, we had a lane that nobody else had yet. And whether like a lot of people don't like to acknowledge it really, but I definitely think that the DBD show paved the way for a lot of what happens now. And it definitely created like the battle rap media facet where like every week we're bringing content where we kind of get to meme on the shit that we love, you know what I mean? And just kind of dunk on undeserving people or otherwise. And you can't really tell us shit because we actually get in the ring and we do this shit, you know what I mean?
So at the time, there was other things, like maybe 2 or 3 other podcasts or YouTube channels, and it was all fans. So from their perspective, it's so different. It's like having an analyst in the NBA being a former NBA player. You respect the opinion so much more.
Yeah, DBD is definitely the Charles Barkley of whatever that was.
I want to mention so Caustic was had this series, which is one of the funniest things. So I show people this segment from the Dirtbag Dan show who aren't even battle rap fans, and they still text me like catch lines or catchphrases to this day. And it was the 5 battles of the week, and it was when you guys would like you would show people who were bad battles, but that was one of the funniest things in my opinion on the show ever.
That's just like, there were so many good ones. Like, that's so like, because it was definitely at the time where battle rap was surging, and it wasn't just like the 5 dudes from this area versus the 5 dudes from this area. There's battles everywhere. There's battles in Muskoka, Canada. There's literally battles everywhere, and you get so many different people from so many different walks of life, because hip hop touches everybody in a different way. You know what I mean? So you've got white Canadian gang members, and you've got kids with snot bubbles on their face, or people throwing up or peeing themselves or whatever. And I think it was just kind of low hanging fruit for us to kind of showcase this world for the circus that it is. You know what I mean?
I think a perfect example, and rest in peace to this person, but you guys had a battle with this guy who was from Niagara. And he was this white kid with a lot of tattoos who claimed to be a blood from Niagara, and he spit in his opponent's face. And in the most Canadian reaction ever, after he spit in his opponent's face, you hear in the crowd, "That's why we don't invite you back, buddy." And then you guys spoke about that battle on one week, and the following week, the actual person who spit in the dude's face had died from a stabbing. And so after kind of making fun of him and making like a joke out of it, you guys like mentioned, you're like, "Oh, rest in peace, man. Like, we're sorry that happened." But like, to me, it's just a complete a perfect example of what the Dirtbag show almost represented in a way.
Yeah, and I don't even think we were very serious during the rest in peace portion of that, which is kind of fucked up in retrospect.
Well, he poured a beer on the guy after he spit on him and stuff.
Yeah, and then I don't think God agreed with that.
No, I don't think he did. And so Caustic, like, you survived through so many eras of battle rap, when it became from freestyle to written, when all the leagues were popping up and they were doing all the collaborative, like, people from different places. And then you started going in and battling people from URL, which like was kind of a merge. And you were doing things that were unheard of, and you were taking battles on a day preparation and things like that. So what's like, and then you, after battle rap, and you're aggressive and a career assassinator in battle rap, you moved on to do stand-up comedy. And so what's like the differential, blah, 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 in like battle rap versus stand-up? Because you're getting a reaction in both, but I find in one, you're facing your opponent and you're getting a reaction from the crowd about your opponent, whereas you're by yourself when you're doing the stand-up.
I think the difference in stand-up for me was like the opponent was myself. You know what I mean? It was like, how far was I willing to take this character, this persona? How honest was I willing to be about my own life? Because I can't fake it. You know what I mean? I can only laugh at what it is, So, and I don't think I think that's why I probably didn't keep up with it, because I wasn't comfortable with it, because it was really like, I'm locked in a room with all these people, and I kind of have to bare my soul for this to work. And I don't think I was in like the proper mental space to really do that at the time. And it's like, it's surprising to me, because it's always like, when people hit me up or show me love on social media or whatever, that's like one of the first things they go to, like, how come you didn't do more stand-up? Like, what happened to the stand-up? And I just don't think, like, between like the shit going on in my personal life. So I think the ironic part about me doing stand-up comedy was I was definitely going through one of the worst personal times of my life at the time, where I wasn't living right on so many levels, and I was involved in so much negative shit in my day-to-day life that I was like, life's kind of not that fucking funny to me right now. And I just kind of strayed away from it. I think that's something I'll always regret, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? And
I think
it's never. I don't think it's ever too late to do stand up.
but it's
You know what I
tough
mean?
too. I've spoken about stand up on previous episodes, and I think because clearly you're a stand-up fan because you're a rapper, you are funny in your raps. Like clearly, like, I'm interested in you as a person. You like basketball, like you know what I mean. I can understand. So I think you're your own worst critic, and when you're also a great artist, so you've been shown yourselves. Caustic has millions of views on YouTube on his battles, right? And so when he starts stand up, he's probably his own worst critic. So it's like it's different than just a kid who's in high school thinking he's funny starting stand up. This is a person
Right.
who's also has already established himself as a character.
I also wasn't getting a lot of love from the actual stand-up community because in their minds I had not done the work. You know what I mean? Like I remember going to like open mics and stuff like that, and they were like, "Oh, they're like it's his first time, or it's his second time, or it's his third time," and I come up there and shut it down, and I just like I jumped a lot of steps. You know what I mean? But they don't understand that I've already dealt with that pressure. I've already overcome the stage fright, and you know what I mean. Like they don't recognize the coalition. You know what I mean? So like we had the same experience. I just kind of did it in a more pressure cooker scenario. You know what I mean?
Well, you had already established a name for yourself just on a different platform. But
Yeah, and I'm getting
it's just
like
like any social media person these days, whether it be like a TikToker or a YouTuber, all of them are fucking making music videos, and it's fine. So it's
yeah.
funny that like like they wouldn't respect like, oh, like because to me stand up and battle rap are similar in so many instances, whereas like they are different, but you're still performing in front of a crowd acoustically, and you know it's like it's on you no matter what
It's
at the end of
still a
the day.
solo effort ultimately, and like as much as you want to be friends and it's a community and everything, you're still in direct competition with the people around you.
Yeah.
And I think that it didn't sit well with a lot of people that I was like veering into their lane. You know what I mean? They're like, you know, it's the same as like a lot of the old battlers aren't going to give a lot of new battlers the shot they deserve because they don't think they've done the work. You know what I mean? So
I feel
it's
you.
interesting. There's always like a bit of gatekeeping in those kinds of communities, and that's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it's just the nature of the beast, and you know, those who persevere will overcome.
And I've seen in recent I just kind of gather information from like Facebook posts or like Instagram stories and shit in a very vague way. But are you working in the like the hospitality industry right now?
Yeah, I'm a bar manager in San Francisco. I also manage nightclubs and stuff like that. And it's just I've always been involved in the service industry. It's how I paid my bills most of my life, and I'm kind of in a position of power and can do what I want, and have my own space, and you know, run it the way I want, which is really nice because San Francisco is such a booming place. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, dude. I've been in 27. I've been in the restaurant industry for 14 years. So yeah, I agree. And so like that's so cool to see that because I see you hiring people and looking for things. So it's great because when you work under people in that industry, like you get nothing out of it. You know what I mean? You kill yourself for nothing. So it's so cool
Definitely,
to see
yeah.
people succeed, you know? Like so and that also like did maybe battle rapping and seeing clubs and venues like and what went crazy and what didn't go crazy like help you towards like you being the manager you are and running the establishments.
Yeah, I definitely think it's given me a lot of insight. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work, or I think we're missing an opportunity here. You know what I mean? But it's also given me a lane to be like, I'm also heavily involved in like the fighting game community for like, you know, for if you play fighting video games, I've done commentary for those guys for years, and it's like now I have my own space. So I'm like, man, maybe I could throw tournaments here, and you know, there's always a way to like give back to your people. You know what I mean? And my goal in anything I do is to try to put on as many people as I can. You know what I mean?
No, that's super cool. And actually, I was gonna try to like do this as like a tidbit to make you like appreciate my fandom more. But Caustic was one of like the top ranked players in Super Smash Bros. At one point, and
I wouldn't
so
say top ranked.
but
That's a pretty
hey,
deep pool.
so in Nova Scotia, when I grew up, there was this chubby white kid who was the thousandth best ping pong player in the world, and he wore that
Right.
shit on his sleeve. So you know what I mean, like. But so Caustic, I'm gonna say to you because I'm a big Smash Bros fan. So my favorite Smash Bros game is the Wii Smash Bros.
Mhm.
And my favorite,
Brawl.
yeah, and my favorite
Oh
character is
man.
Marth. So what's
Yeah.
your favorite game and your favorite character to play as? Like which,
Um,
whether it be N64, whether it be whatever.
I'd say Melee is probably my favorite overall. Melee was like I was pretty heavy in the Melee community around the same time I was starting battling, so I kind of left Melee behind for battling because you can only spread yourself so thin with all these like niche hobbies that I was like getting into. But that was like before like Genesis was happening, which is like one of the biggest Smash tournaments in the world every year, which happens in Oakland, coincidentally. And that came from a guy called Shroomed, who I used to play with in San Jose all the time, and just he just became one of the father figures of that community. But I never like reached Melee changed so much after I left. Like I played Melee in the beginning of that game, and people didn't even really figure out the game until like 5 years after it came out. That's when like Armada and like Leffen and all these people came up. But I always loved playing Peach in Melee. That was like she wasn't like the best character in the game, but that was like my guilty pleasure, and I helped create that character, so I'll always be partial to that. But I definitely played Ultimate for the last like 2 years. I'm very healthy at that game. Any rapper that says they can beat me is lying, except maybe 6X. You know what I mean? Who might have taken a game or two off me along the way.
Well, the thing is, dude, is like when you say, because like you're a good player, right? So I'm one of those dudes who like I'm only okay versus like other people who don't play it a lot. I remember playing a person who was like really good as Mr. Game and Watch, and they killed it with it. I think like with a player like Peach, you get like you master that player. Like I remember hating Ness, but if a
Yeah,
certain person used Ness, they fucked you up, you know?
you still hate Ness if you play Smash Brothers. It's
Yeah.
totally okay to hate Ness
Oh,
forever.
I can't stand him, bro.
Yeah, still I don't like fighting Ness. You little short bastard.
So
Um,
right now, I don't want to reveal too much, but I know you're working on a project with Passwords and Frack and some other people. Like, is there any kind of thing you can speak on with that?
uh, I can say that I am doing some behind the scenes work for some upcoming animations and shorts that are coming out, and maybe it's uncertain to say if I'm going to tack my name onto the big project for the long run, but I'm definitely being outsourced for some creative content along the way. But I've taken a look at everything they're doing, and I'm really excited for Ilmac and Frack and Pass and all those guys. I think they found a really good lane for themselves and what they have coming up. I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about right now because nothing's out or released, or I don't think everybody's even finished with their contracts yet. But uh, I think it's a very smart and healthy path for these battle rappers to take, because it doesn't always have to be music. Like that's the connotation with battling, is like, okay, like you battle rap, so where's your album at? You know what I mean? And then you put out an album and everybody shits on you because you're a battle rapper, which it doesn't make sense. There's such a weird stigma with battling and making music. um so I think it was smart for these guys to find a different lane for them to be creative and use all this funny content they have to show the world, and maybe deal with some current events and our views on the world at this time, which in a more friendly and less confrontational manner, I think.
Hey,
So
that's cool. And like I didn't want to leak anything either, but I'm sure once it starts getting put out to the public, I'll talk about it and promote it.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Here's a random one for you. So I'm such a big fan of the '09 Warriors team, man. Like I
We
cannot tell.
believe.
I was watching the dunk on Kirilenko the other day. Um, so
Well,
so
you know why they're talking about this right now, because the Warriors are going to be the eighth seed this
oh,
year coming
okay.
in, and that was the Baron Davis, Monte Ellis era of beating the number one seed Utah Jazz, which is like a monumental moment in basketball history. The We Believe era definitely inspired a lot of uh, seasoned Warrior fans, I think.
So I'll tell you we'll speak about the 2019 again. I was arguing with Hello Warrior people because so my biggest thing is bandwagon people, right? I fucking hate bandwagon fans. And so like whenever like a random person who worked with me be like, "Oh, I like Golden State right now." I'd be like, "Name me people other than Steph and Clay," and they wouldn't know. And I was having an argument with a dude, and he seemed like he thought I didn't know basketball, and I was like, you know what, man? If we want to talk Golden State, how about Kalina Ozumbuike?
Yeah.
And then he
Still, Azubuike still does.
He's the play-by-play, right?
Yeah, he's like our local post-game analysis right now.
Oh man,
And
so
I think they were using like Adonal Foil and stuff like that for
and
a
so
while.
Adonal Foil, Andre Spiedrins,
Yeah,
Corey
Beedrins.
McGrady.
Nobody was there for Beedrins.
I was.
You weren't there. Yeah, motherfuckers weren't there for Beedrins.
There was who is number 7 on that team who was super versatile as like a stretch forward.
Oh shit!
I can't. He's like almost Antoine Jameson, but Andre.
Antoine Jameson was number 23,
and he was before.
And
Andre. Oh man, I'm blanking right now. There was like a stretch.
No. Antoine Jameson was 15, and Jason Richardson was 23.
And then it wasn't. I can't believe that I'm fucking this up, man. But you guys had a stretch forward who was like one of my favorite because he was a great two-way player. He was, 3-and-D is so big now. He was one of the bigger 3-and-D guys back then.
Yeah. Oh no, Azubuike was number 7.
Oh,
maybe. I think you're not talking about Matt Barnes. That was like the beginning of Matt Barnes.
But see, that's the thing. Your guys' whole entire roster I loved. Like it was a tough roster to not like, Whenever I play 2K, I play them as one of my like the top teams of all time kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think Chris Webber was still there.
No, he was there like early 90s. I'm an idiot for saying. I'm gonna remember it at the end.
I think he was there for like the mid 2000s.
Well, he was Sacramento from like 2000 to like
that was 2005. That was post Spreewell.
That's a great. They run TMC and Spreewell in those days. Oh man, like that's the thing.
Spreewell was definitely after TMC. That was like, Spreewell and what was his boy? Fuck, I'm hella blanking right now. Sorry, I haven't smoked any weed today. My brain's functioning very poorly.
Same here. I was trying to prep for this episode by not smoking. Obviously, I can't remember the right things. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like, I just want to speak to you about Golden State because I know you're a big fan, and I remember like watching the DVD show, and you guys would like see the playoffs going on. You'd be like, yeah. It's like, what was it like for you going from Golden State? To me, was always a beloved team. I always loved them because like Monte was big, Baron Davis was sick, Jason Richardson got all the dunk championships. What was it like when you guys?
I made my dad buy me a Jason Richardson jersey, and I don't think he was too happy about that. He's like, he's not going to be on the team. I was like, I don't care. He fucking slam dunks. That's like $70 jersey, please.
Oh yeah, I got a DeMar jersey like the year before he left. DeMar DeRozan, and it was like 120. I was like, "This is your birthday and Christmas present."
Can it just be one? It could just be one.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was it like for you, like when the Warriors became who they were? Because you had the few years of transition when Steph, he's in the 09 draft, but then like the build.
I was talking about this at the bar last night. I was definitely, and I'm okay with this. I was definitely on the wrong side of history for this, and I'm glad that I was, because it was coming down to we were either going to trade Monte Ellis or we were either going to trade Stephen Curry. And at that time, Stephen Curry had a terrible ankle injury and hadn't really done shit yet. And he was from like Davis College. Like there was no reason in my mind why we were going to give up the only guy on our team who was scoring at the time for this potentially good player who's hurt all the time. And he just ended up being one of the best players in history. And so I'm super glad that we did not keep Monte Ellis. No hate to Monte Ellis. He did great things for the Warriors for a long time, and for the Mavericks and the Pacers and the Bucks. And but yeah, it was just amazing. Like the 2014 season, you really started to see the change in everything, and it was very surreal because like, we don't really win shit. Before that, like I think the Raiders were in the Super Bowl in like 2003 against the Bucks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, we don't get shit. You know what I mean? Like the A's weren't doing shit. And just watch this resurgence, and it slowly transitioned into like they're changing basketball. Like it's not even like this is a really good team. It's like now it was the same feeling I had when I was 10 years old watching the Bulls do what they're doing. Like we hadn't seen anything like that before. You know what I mean? So, and it's just like such an overwhelming amount of pride. Like this is our shit. You know what I mean? Like, and fuck any, like, calling me a bandwagon fan is like the most instant way to piss me off.
Yeah.
Because like I remember going to Warriors games for like $15 on like Wednesday nights with my dad when there's like nothing going on back then, wearing my little bullshit Steven Jackson jersey and shit.
That's the stretch forward that I can't believe I wasn't thinking about Stack
Steven
5.
Jackson.
I can't believe I wasn't thinking about Stack, because he was just crazy that year too.
Oh yeah, Steven Jackson and Spree were like the dynamic duo for quite a while.
Well, and like, so it's the same thing with you. Like, I hate bandwagons. So, dude, even when the Raptors won, I thought we were going to lose because I'm so used to having such a shitty team. Like, I used to go to Raptors games and the Raptors would be up every 3 quarters. And then I remember Nate Robinson scored 30 on us when he played for the Knicks in the 4th quarter of the game. And dude, I still reference Jose Calderon being one of the best point guards of all time. And I'm going to hold that to the fucking grave.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just, it's amazing to me that the Raptors didn't make the playoffs this year.
It's insane how the NBA has changed so much this year because of COVID. Like, the Knicks are in the 3 or 4 spot.
Yeah. Like, but they're playing amazingly. They're like, the Knicks are easily one of the most exciting teams to watch right now.
I'm excited with the league this year, man, because everybody spoke about Lakers and LeBron and AD, but like, look at Utah, it sucks that Denver had Jamal go under, but like dude, even Chris Paul with Phoenix, like they're changed. So many teams are changed around these days.
I'm down to support everybody except Chris Paul. Chris Paul can fuck off.
You're not a fan?
Oh man, last night was amazing watching him. He's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna beat Steph Curry. No, you're fucking not, buddy. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, it don't fucking matter, Chris. You're never gonna beat him. You never, never, ever. You better hope to God that the Suns don't play the Warriors in the playoffs because
you will get watched.
There's just a space in Chris Paul's mind that is free real estate for Steph, man.
He loses every year in the playoffs to them.
Yeah, it's and I fucking relish in it every time. I mean that Raptors squad was undeniably good, and just the story of like Siakam and like Fred VanVleet, just like, you know what I mean? Like they were underdogs, from the jump. I mean, of course, Kawhi is going to make any team better that he goes to, but I wasn't like, it was a little sad. It's like we have this like epic rivalry against LeBron James, and then we fucking lose it to fucking the Raptors. Of all people. No offense, but that's not where I saw that dynasty ending at.
But we got fucked up year after year by the Cavs. Like, dude, DeRozan, who was our best player before he got traded, he was benched in the last game against the Cavs in the playoffs in the 4th quarter. Like, that just like the Raptors were never going to surpass that. And then DeMar gets traded and LeBron goes to the West Coast. And you just feel so bad for DeMar. But it's
on the Spurs now, right?
Yeah, he's on the Spurs and he's his contract's up this year. But you know what sucks with the NBA these days is like Raptors were so good that year and their defense was so emphasized. And I think Danny Green, along with Kawhi, was such a part. And then Danny Green's getting these 1-year contracts. Now he's in Philly. I feel like that with Jay Crowder. Like, Jay Crowder makes every team better in my.
Jay Crowder's pissing me off last night.
He's
why
crazy.
are you hitting these shots?
Yeah.
But he's a really good fit for the Suns.
It's just like Robert Covington, man. These guys who are good 3-and-D players just get traded every fucking year now. Like, it's weird.
Well, I think it was like right before the trade deadline, they were talking about trading Kelly Oubre for Danny Green. And I was like, I super appreciate everything Danny Green does, but I don't want him on the Warriors.
Yeah, and he's ugly, man. Kelly Oubre is sexy, you know?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I need a stretch forward that I'm sexually attracted to. You know what I mean?
You need somebody to compete with Steph for that cute face. But hey, man,
Kelly Oubre, no matter what team you're playing for tonight.
Well, yeah. Well, and Andrew Wiggins, thanks for giving him a chance from Canada. We appreciate that.
Man, Andrew Wiggins does not get the credit he deserves, bro. Even like just hearing Stephen A. Smith like talk shit about Andrew Wiggins, I'm like, do you not watch basketball? I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Like,
Stephen A. Smith went with his tail between his legs when he went on Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson's podcast after talking shit about weed, and then them being biggest advocates for weed.
Come on, man. People do a lot of crazy shit for their jobs. Just ask Paul Pierce,
Hey, who knows? Rest in peace to that career, man. He's the truth, bro.
I think I'm sure he probably feels a lot about it how I feel about battling now. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I get you, man.
I don't fucking care. I did what I did. Hall of Famer, kiss my ass.
100%, bro. And this podcast is almost based on battle rap, but it's based on what battle rap was. It's just like the best era of hip hop was a certain time. The best era of this was a certain time. You know what I mean? The Warriors were the biggest team between 2014 and 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
like
mean,
it's
just the fact that we got a dynasty team for this town, and I mean, it's in a time where like the Warriors play in San Francisco now. The Raiders are in Las Vegas. It just
what do you
came up
think about that? Did you hear about
the
the
Athletics.
A's?
The Athletics are shopping for stadiums and potential cities outside of Oakland, and that's really going to come down to whatever Libby Schaff wants to do. And I don't think she has a very good grasp on building an economy or tourism for this town. But
Yeah, because that must be so
it'd
weird
be
to you.
very heartbreaking if the A's leave, because that's just kind of like I don't really have, outside of that, my attachment to sports just kind of dissipates entirely. And like I can't root for the Las Vegas Raiders, and it was hard enough being a Raiders fan before that. And the A's, who have been playing amazing this year, and it's like, of course, like, and as soon as the Warriors start doing well, they're going to ship them to San Francisco, and they're going to wear Oakland jerseys all year. And they're going to, where the fuck are the A's going to go? Like, fucking Santa Barbara? Like, I don't know. There's no other place for these guys. And it's like, there's no sense in taking away what little we have already.
Well, I heard on one take that they were going to change the Athletics to the Aces, but still keep the logo as the A's. And I'm just like, man, it's just sucks seeing that kind of shit happen. Like, I want Seattle to be a basketball team again. Like, I want shit to go back to how it was.
You know what I mean? Fucked with the Sonics back in the day. I love that.
Best logo.
Yeah, because like Sean Kemp was amazing, and Gary Payton is from Oakland, and that was like such a huge. You know what I mean?
You spoke about Mosswood Park, and Gary Payton used to play at Mosswood.
A Mosswood legend. I remember Gary Payton had like a nephew at Oakland Tech who was like fucking up in school, and he like came and pulled his ass out of like math class and like bitched him out in the hallway with all of us listening. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't. That's just like the history of this place. And I'm always going to support people. I'm always going to support like Dame Lillard and people like that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're from Oakland, I'm rooting for you. You know what I mean?
Like, I've always loved Oakland culture, man. I've always respected it. As I said, I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of LaShawn. I'm a fan of Chase, Fredo, Revert, like everybody. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a big thing in my heart too. Whereas like one thing I'll say before we sign off is when you guys were watching one of the bad battles, there was a guy from North Bay battling in a backyard in Niagara Falls. And I think it was either Able Abilities or FLO was on, and they thought he was repping the Bay as in Oakland. And you had to explain to them that it was a different part.
Because automatically FLO is going to be like, let's go. Like, fuck whatever the other guy's talking about. The guy from the Bay wins. And I'm like, no, there's other bays in the world.
And he dropped the hard R too.
Don't matter from the day.
Yeah. Anyway, man, thank you so much.
To FLO, man.
Well, showed it to you, man, and NFLO, and like people, please like watch Caustic's battles. Like he's amazing. He's just a funny guy too. And if you watch old episodes of the Dirtbag Dan show, like it's just, to me, it's part of my life. You know what I mean? And
I still watch him every now and then. I can't front.
I just want to say, man, like, thank you so much. Like, sorry if the interview wasn't super formulated, but I'm such a fan that I just kind of wanted to touch on everything, like,
I don't think anything I've done in my career has been formulated. So
yeah, there you go.
This is right up my alley.
What happened with you getting your passport back in London that time before we sign off?
I had to stay there for an extra week and couch surf amongst very local London rappers' couches. One of which being Kruger, and me listening to Kruger's dad bitch out his little brother pretty tough for losing his Oyster card, I'll never forget that. And also shout out to Bamalam, who let me stay for a few days, and I beat the shit out of all of them in Tekken.
There you go, man. Shouts to that. Shouts to Kruger too. He was great. He's really helped me out with this podcast.
Kruger is forever the man.
He's one of the nicest guys. Like, he did the podcast with me, and he supported me through it. And yeah, as you, man, I appreciate you. And I think people will really like this. People have been hitting me up and mentioning names that I should have on, and you're definitely one of the big ones. And such a fan of you as well, man.
Well, I'm just happy anybody wants to talk to me at all. So thank you.
When I asked him for this interview, he said, I'm surprised people still want to talk to me. But you know what, man? I'm still thinking about you. I'm still thinking about 5 battles of the week and everything.
We got 5 battles of the week.
Thank you. Caustic, thank you so much. Listeners, I'm going to say thank you to him after I end the call, but thanks for listening. Next week, we have on Zach Menace, aka Sketch Menace, former Alberta KOTD representative. He now
Former Smash player.
and he also runs a great podcast about Hastings in Vancouver. But thank you once again. This is my life, Sam Radford.
Shout out to Sketch, and shout out to you, Sam. Thank you for having me on, bro.
Thank you, my guy.